The next thing that international students should know about Canadian law is what they can do if they think that a business has cheated them. And in Ontario, we have numerous laws that deal with the protection of consumers. So we have something called the Consumer Protection Act. So that's one. We have the Wireless Services Agreements Act. We have the Discriminatory Business Practices Act. And, just among the rules that are contained within these laws, there's a rule against using a false or deceptive misrepresentation. And so, if they're lying to you to try and convince you to buy their product, or they, deceive you into believing it does something that it does not do, or it will give you some benefit that you don't have, or they try and take advantage of your lack of ability to communicate in English, there are actually very, very strong penalties for that kind of behavior. And as a result, it's actually not that difficult to bring a case based on that. And just to give you an example, one of my first cases I resolved as a lawyer was a Mennonite couple. Mennonites are they're a people who are a sort of separate Christian sect within Canada. They originally came from Russia by way of Mexico to Canada, and most of them speak a language called Low German, which is a version of German. And they are, communities. They're they kind of stick to themselves. They're not very well integrated, and so they can often be victimized by people who are immoral in their actions. And so this poor couple that I dealt with, they had somebody come to their door, knock on their door and say, "I'm from the town, I'm here to test your water because we think it's unsafe." And then they did this test where they put drops in the water. And what the drops did was they made all of the minerals in the water, like zinc and iron, drop to the bottom. And it made this sludge at the bottom. They said, "Oh, look at that. That's very dangerous. You shouldn't be drinking that, right?" But the reality is that stuff at the bottom of the water was perfectly healthy. And in fact, it was better than water without it, because, iron is something your body needs. And so these people, on the basis of this test that had been performed for them, that had deceived them into believing that, this person was from the town, which they weren't, and that their water was dangerous to drink, they agreed to put in a water system. And the water system's actual value was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000, $1,200 maybe, for a really good system. But the one that they put in was a much cheaper system. And they charged them $7,800 for it. And so when they came to me, they did not know what to do. They were getting calls from the lender who had financed this water system on behalf of this company. So this company had made them sign documents that said, you'll pay back this bank. And so the bank was like, "Where's our money?" Right? And so I sued the company that had gone door to door, and I sued them not only for the return of the $7,800, like the cancellation of the debt, but also for something called punitive and aggravated damages. And that's like asking the court to not only just make my clients back to where they were when they started, but to actually actively punish the company for what they had done. And because I had that available to me, and there was a reasonably good chance I was going to get something for punitive damages, the other side decided that they would just refute. They did something called rescinding the contract, which basically means they made the contract go away, so my clients didn't owe any money anymore. And from their perspective, they were very, very happy about that. This company had taken advantage of their lack of ability to protect themselves in English. They had done everything that they could do wrong. And so I felt really good. It's one of my favorite cases to talk about because I feel so satisfied from having gotten them justice. You should also know that in these same consumer protection laws, there are also special rules for certain types of agreements or businesses, like wireless agreements. So like your cell phone bills, there are rules around that. I remember when I first started as a lawyer, about 50% of every case in the small claims court involved a cell bill. Okay. Now it's much more reduced, in part because this provisions of the Wireless Services Agreements Act have kicked in, and so they've changed the playing field so that the consumers have more rights. But at the time it was just, that was everything in small claims court all the time. And then there are rules about fitness clubs. So the fitness clubs loves to sign you up for a whole year, even if you because they know you're only going to come for like a month, and then you're going to stop coming. And so they love to get that whole year out of you, and then they have an auto renew on it so that it goes for another year without you even knowing. And so there are rules around what they can and can't do as well. And there are also rules for something called remote agreements. So a remote agreement is one where you don't go to the store to buy something, they come to you. Right? And that's called a remote agreement. And so there are rules around those as well.